protests everywhere, how Israel is being connected to Ferguson, getting Jewish singles together with just a swipe, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. While America is focused on civil disobedience and protests in Ferguson, Missouri this week, it is protests there and elsewhere that is also shining a light on Israel. 90-year-old Holocaust survivor Hetty Epstein is now one of the most prominent individuals arrested in Ferguson, protesting the local police shooting of African-American teenager Michael Brown. Epstein, who was one of 10,000 children who fled to the United Kingdom in 1939 as part of the Kinder Transport Program, had also recently been protesting on behalf of Palestinians during Israel's recent war with Hamas. Of course, she's far from alone among those protesting Israeli activity in Gaza. Some of that has had material consequences for Israel. In Oakland Seaport, an Israeli commercial vessel was kept from docking by protesters for several days this week, and the protesters in that Block the Boat campaign are also suggesting a connection between Israel and the situation in Ferguson, where some activists are blaming the militarization of St. Louis's police forces on Israel as well. This is a tenuous connection based on a single 2011 trip by the St. Louis County Police Chief to study counterterrorism, as compared with the far more obvious signs of police militarization created by the gifting of military equipment from the U.S. Armed Services to local police forces. Another connection being made between the two events is on social media, where those in Gaza are posting information on Twitter for protesters in Ferguson about how to deal with tear gas. That has in turn led some protesters in Ferguson to wave Palestinian flags, with one man telling a journalist there that he was doing so to show support for Palestinians in recognition of the fact that some Palestinians had been showing support for protesters in Ferguson. Even at the level of international alliances, Israel's new ally of Egypt, whose current government came to power in part through brutal suppression of protest and is currently hosting peace talks between Israel and Palestinians, is cautioning President Barack Obama on the conduct of law enforcement in response to Ferguson, with the Egyptian Foreign Ministry calling for the U.S. to exercise, quote, restraint and respect for the right of assembly and peaceful expression of opinion. And then there's the United Nations, which statements about restraint on Israel are so familiar to so many observing the situation, also jumping in. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said through a spokesperson that he, quote, calls on the authorities to ensure that the rights to peaceful assembly and freedom of expression are protected, and, quote, calls on all to exercise restraint for law enforcement officials to abide by U.S. and international standards in dealing with demonstrators. What is happening in all these cases is the U.S. and Israel being drawn into the same narrative by left-wing figures, which is to say the notion that both countries are exercising power and violence by white people upon black and brown people. Such statements are easy to find on social media and other websites. This furthers, on the one hand, a comparison that favors Israel, and on the other hand, one it doesn't want to see. On the one hand, being suggested to be on par with or better than the United States in moral or other claims is a great position for Israel to be in. After all, that's why Egypt and others are making statements about the United States right now. On the other hand, that's not the position Israel wants to be in when nearly all international figures have determined that what they're seeing is a violent and unfair suppression of minorities' basic freedoms. The question for Israel is how it moves forward to develop more enviable associations with the United States. Moving on to other kinds of enviable associations, the act of coupling these days is quite often done with a swipe on a smartphone, with apps like Tinder and Grindr and so forth matching people up quickly based on location and the flick of a finger. So what happens when that swipe becomes a JSwipe? Meredith Gansman found out.
Call it a love shack. Inside JSwipe's offices, company founder David Yaris is changing the way Jews can get together. And here's where you'll meet, on an app.
I was a JDate user at times, and I found the experience particularly awful. Just felt a little bit 1990 AOL.com-y.
And for busy millennials, meeting people the old-fashioned way can be difficult.
So the likelihood of me showing up at a venue or a bar or whatever and meeting this tiny sliver is nil. Really, you're not going to. So I wasn't meeting the type of person I was looking for when I was going out, and I wasn't going out that often.
So what's a nice Jewish boy to do?
I needed something that would be Tinder for Jews.
Tinder is a social mobile dating app for meeting people close by. JSwipe launched in April, using the same idea. but focusing on young Jews who are looking for love, and has counted over 40 million swipes in 70 countries.
The goal is to find love, whatever that means to you. To find Mr. Right or Mr. Swipe Right.
Like Tinder, JSwipe has no membership fee. So let's see how this works. I'm gonna give it a swipe. Let's see if there's a match. You can filter by how you identify, if you keep kosher, your photos. Oh, here we go. College student Kathy Geller-Aronin has recently begun using JSwipe.
I never really took part in the dating apps because I had a very serious boyfriend. And when I went home from school at the end of the semester for summer, I was a little bored, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm like, you know what, I should try one of these dating apps.
So it really has, I think, transformed the ability to find relevant, personalized people who are, in this case, already sharing similar values, sharing similar mindsets, sharing your religion, right? Sharing all of these, foundation tenets for what you are looking for in someone at scale every swipe. And then it's just about like, do you vibe?
However, Yaris is not your average app user.
So I've gone on a couple dates. All have been fine and fun. Most recently, frankly, I've been using it, more as a community manager to help everyone find love than personally like being hyper-focused on also for myself. And have just been a little bit too busy to like find the time, but that's not a good excuse. My parents wouldn't appreciate that answer.
Just call Yaris and JSwipe the modern-day matchmakers.
I think technology, innovation, and love is the modern-day matchmaker. But yeah, hell yeah, I'll take some mitzvah points. I don't mind.
To see more from JSwipe, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. There's no episode of Up Close this week. Check back with us on September 1st for the next episode. That's all for this week from all of us here at the Jewish Channel. Be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 1640, IOPTM Channel 505, RCN Channel 268, Cox Cable Channel 1, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and on Comcast on the on-demand menu on premium channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.